Orchestrating hypergrowth product teams to build a fintech unicorn in the age of AI. Katya, welcome to Breaking Down Barriers, where we hear from the builders and makers of the MENA ecosystem and beyond. The reason you should tune into this episode today is Katya is the ex-chief product officer of Tabby, joined at inception in 2019, scaled the product and tech organization from 7 to 300, multi-stage builder and strategist, created Tabby's core portfolio of the buy now, pay later card across all of the markets. She's a HR tech enthusiast, led people through turbulent periods, building culture, hiring pipelines, and structure of remote tech and product teams. Advisor now, guiding startups and scale-ups in building the right strategy and product structure for growth, and 10 years experience in building marketplace across e-com and fintech.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ricky, for introducing myself, and thanks a lot for having me here.
Pleasure. I mean, I think I spent a year trying to get hold of you, not realizing I think you were on a sabbatical, and I was like, I just can't get hold of this lady. Why is she not responding to me? But
yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't ghosting. I was totally digital detox thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. And then a year later, here we are. So I really appreciate it. And it's good that we finally get to connect. So look, let's get straight into it then. What is the secret sauce around bringing a new product into the region, scaling it massively, used on obviously a daily basis for, across strategy and people?
I think, that strategy and people, that's the right answer. So first, we haven't invented a wheel. Basically, we brought the model that worked on other markets and we just brought it to MENA. And I think that the secret was the unique combination of the skills that two founders had. We had one who was based in the region, had network, had connections, and had a great reputation here. And the second came from another region with the expertise in building fintechs and with a great access to talent. And I think that was really very important at the start, that we were able to form a great product and tech team. Yeah, and I guess this is the answer to that. So it was the right thing to do, and we had all the capacity to deliver and the perfect timing.
Network, talent, understanding and timing. Some bits that I summarized there as well. Not that easy though to do. So hopefully we'll get into that some more. And obviously when launching a new product or into a new market, like how do you actually sync with product, commercial, legal, operations? Like what was the key to actually that acceleration and that rollout?
So first, there is a lot of specifics in fintech. And in fintech at the moment, and when we started, it was 2019, and the market was completely different, and it was way less regulated than at the moment. And basically, we had much more freedom to do stuff, and it was much easier in comparison to startups appearing now, because the regulation came along with us. We did new stuff, and they had to invent the legal frameworks for us, basically. So, and I'm very grateful to the UAE market because their governance here is very open to the new things, to the new fintechs. And it has been a great period of like experimenting and trying and delivering and bringing stuff. And coming back to your question on like how to think all that, in my experience, the part of the product management is being able to communicate and to build this around yourself with the marketing leader, legal, with engineers, data, with design as well. So you bring this all together. But in some cases, we also practiced basically separation. We had a business leader and we had a product manager, while the business leader focused more on the partnerships, commercials with them, legal as well, while the product manager focused more on the product for the customers, how this will work, how we deliver that, how we implement the feedback, the metrics, and the results. So this is my approach.
And was it always the plan of what Tabby is, or was there like pivots along the way from, if we're talking about 2019 up until now? Like, is it all about execution of that plan, or has there been some changes in that kind of product and service offering?
Of course, they were changes. When we started, we looked a lot, as I said, at other markets, because there was Klarna, there was Affirm, there was Afterpay. So BNPL existed for some time, and we wanted to take this experience and to try out in our region. And there was some things that didn't fly out here. The first thing that we knew, for example, that in Klarna, 90% of the business at that point of time was taken by the product which they called pay in 30 days. In this market, we haven't found the best product market fit for this product. So the core product of Tabby and Tamara and all the BNPL startups has all the time been split in 3-4 parts. And we also have looked at the other things. For example, in US, their payment schedule was bi-weekly, but we quickly understood that this was connected to the way that the pay is made on a bi-weekly basis, and it also didn't make sense here in UAE and in Saudi with the once per month payments. So yeah, of course, the product evolved. There was some features that were not that didn't make sense. We tried them. From there, we learned, and we pivoted.
I mean, makes sense. And I think it's always that, like you said at the start, around that experimentation mindset as well to obviously get to that point.
We also had the thing that, sorry for interrupting you, that we wanted, there was a framework, how we thought, the mindset that we are able to deliver a new product every 2 months. And I think that the first year we were committed to that, and really every 2 months there was a new product going out.
I mean, amazing. I mean, what unique product leadership, I suppose, adaptations did you have to make then for MENA?
Even for myself, I will speak to, as I said, the regulation came along with us, and we had to take these new rules of the game, and it was hard. I have been monitoring the conversion, and then we have to implement, I don't know, new fields regulated by the market that we need to ask customer something new. And I see that we're doing this just for compliance. We do not need this for the risks. And I see the conversion going down. And of course, I have to accept it, and it's a challenge. And then you need to change this approach. You need to understand that this is important as well. And this is the rules of the game. Yeah.
And if we look at vision, portfolio, OKRs, a lot of people don't actually know what OKRs or how to set them right, especially in the region. What does like the cascade look like then from a 3-year North Star metrics down to fortnight sprintly goals?
Mm-hmm. So OKRs are objectives and key results. That's the framework that I definitely believe in a lot, and this is very helpful for scale-ups on the some scale. When you have more than 60 people in a company, then you basically need an instrument how to tune them in, so to make all the people on the same page. And it was really important for us so that we establish this transparency from there, where we go, what we want to achieve, how we want to change this world, into what exactly we need to do every 2 weeks. What are the results of my work? How does this make the goal of the company closer? So this has been very important. And yeah, the answer is that the OKRs methodology was very helpful.
What are the 3 metrics then that you tended to watch obsessively?
Basically, when you start, you watch orders, customers, GMV every day, because this is the first things that you do. But for the product mindset and for the fintech business, there are probably 2 other things that I would add is conversion, obsession. Of course, this is the most important. And the second is risks. So we're in fintech. It's important to be aware of the default rates.
And how do you get, like, a lot of people talk about OKRs, but actually like living and breathing them and setting them in the right way and understanding that framework? And I allude to the Middle East, obviously, because we're here, but even harder here in this region versus what I kind of, a lot of the business that I worked with in Europe or US. So what do you think like the challenges there, and how do you actually execute on that? Is it like top down or?
Our challenge additionally was that we were remote. We had different hubs, we had people in different places, and it was so important to make them work synchronously, like work in the same direction, not pulling into different direction. So we tried different other things, like just the regular updates, just the presentation format, just going from top to bottom here, what we're working on. But this hasn't all the time been the thing that just goes through the daily life of every person in the company. And we found that OKRs is the thing that basically connects the individual performance, the daily life, to their global goals.
What metrics do you think product leaders overvalue in fintech then as well? Interesting, we had the event last night and the CPO Monzo was obviously talking about the customer obsession as well within a business, but that's not as easy to have that and have that in all of your employees as well. You should have it. What would you say from a product leader perspective do you overvalue?
Yeah, the metrics. My answer would be, weirdly enough, but retention. I think that sometimes I often see, the kind of abuse of the metrics. Like, okay, we have low retention, what do? Let's send out push notification to everyone so that they open the app and they do what? And this is fake. I don't believe in things like that. So you can drive the retention, but if people do not have intent to come to your app or to do something, then they do not have this intent. And sometimes it's fine. For example, the BNPL itself, it's not very high repetitive business, especially when you have a limited number of partners. When we just started, then it was okay not to have the best retention in the world. But the Tabby, it's a separate thing. So we had the strategy. Of course, retention was important, and that's why we thought, why the then BNPL? What else can we do? And in UE, there is a card, there are other things, how to drive that. But I think sometimes when you're doing just one thing, you need to be very honest. Retention might be low, and that might be fine. You need just to be sure that you solve the problem for the customer, and you solve this problem amazingly.
What would you say is the number one thing that's made Tabby so successful today?
I don't know, maybe... No, honestly, I don't know. I want to...
Too many things.
Yeah, too many things. There was no one success factor. But I think maybe what brought us to the next level was being able to be presented on Noon and Amazon, the marketplaces. And this brought the awareness as well. Yeah, I would say this.
Yeah. So if we sort of switch gears to around the people side, so how do people and skill sets, how do the people and skill sets change from product market fit to then obviously hyper scale up mode as well?
What I believe is super important is a weird thing, is keeping this team small and strong and flexible at the very early stages, because you do not need a lot of different opinions. You do not need to have a lot of strong leaders. What I see at the moment as advisor in startups, especially if they have access to capital, I feel this is a strategy for, security, insurance, safety, that we have funds, let's hire the best people that we have on the market, and then they bring 10 senior people in one room, and then they just waste resources and time on making these 10 senior people agree. So I think that when you're just trying to find the product market fit, it's really important to move fast, to move quickly, to make the decisions, to adjust. And you need strong people, you need people being able to execute, but you need to keep it really lean. But then when you scale that, this is the totally different thing. You need people who you can trust, who can be independent, and you need these strong leaders from the market to own their own thing, to own their area, their product stream, their business, business thing. So yeah, I think this is the difference. I would prefer to keep team very small in the beginning and to get strong leaders on board for scale up.
And then that autonomy, empowerment, accountability type mindset, and also ways of working in the business, which is really hard, especially accountability. What signals tell you then it's time to actually start to re-architect the organization?
The worst situation that you can get into it, and I know it from the experience, is that when you get 20 people reporting to your CTO, and then you're stuck. This is definitely a signal that something goes wrong. But you need to try to predict this a bit in advance. So you need to understand if you see their Slack threads with 50 messages in a row, when you see people who cannot take this decision because there are too many people involved, then something goes wrong and you need to reorg. And also what happens in startups, that sometimes in product and tech organizations, you tend to promote people who have been doing work at their own level very well. For example, like senior developers, and you make them team leaders. And then they are not that great team leaders, and they have been in a role of senior development. So this is what you need to track and to constantly monitor, so that you understand that you need to reorganize, you need to build the teams around the business, and you need to get senior leaders on board.
Yeah, you touched on the promotion bit there. So if we look at like internal promotion versus external burst hire, like how do you decide? How do you keep culture intact, like with 4x headcount in a year?
So culture is the most important thing, and I think I tend to internal promotion in all the options when it's available, because this brings in motivation, you keep culture intact, and I think it's the lowest risk. So you know how the person works already. You know the strengths, the weaknesses, the benefits of getting this person. So the risk is the only one, is like new role, whether this person will get with this new responsibility. But when you hire externally, you know nothing. You have like, how long will you spend? 3 hours during an interviews. You know less about the culture. You know about the results, but only what this person has told you. So the risk is much higher, and the risk of this person being not the right fit is much higher. But I think that in a lot of cases, this brings like new incoming energy, and that's great. So I would prefer, my answer is to mix that. Try to internally promote whatever you can. But when you understand that it's a limit, the person has their limit, and you need to do step up or like double step up, then you definitely need someone from the other market.
And whilst we're on obviously growing and building scaling teams, like what are the tactics then for keeping lean? How do you like experiment with driven teams, and while also becoming obviously a larger organization as well?
Especially when becoming a larger organization, you cannot hire all the like A players, you know this term, like self-driven people. There will be more people who tend to find comfort at work, and that's normal for humans, and that's okay. But I think that what you need to make sure is that you invest in the people managers, in the leaders, that they are the ones who are ready to disrupt their own business spots, their own units, that they can challenge them, add some hustle, add some like propose to hack the thing. So I guess this is the answer. You need to be able to ensure that your leaders are the ones who have this startup culture in their veins.
And you mentioned A players. So bar raisers, what was an A player for Tabby? Like what are the 3 things that you looked for when it came to hiring and that you felt that you got right?
We never looked for expertise. This is a weird thing to say, but we all the time were looking for definitely smart people who are able to grow with the company, because we were in the market. There was no like other BNPLs. There were no other prominent fintech. So who could we hire? We could hire people from traditional banks, and that wasn't the right choice. We need new energy. We need other decision-making practices. We need people with other mindset. But that's actually it. That's who we had. So we had to invent the wheel here, and we had to bring people with sometimes even with no financial expertise. And I have ecom background. I and it was good because, we are B2B, we were B2B to C business. So we worked for e-commerce, and it was important to understand the needs of the e-commerce business. But I guess that's the answer, was that we all the time looked for smart people and potential, not the expertise.
I mean, it makes sense. I think that blend, especially within an organization. But yeah, a lot of the founders I work with always want to hire for logos, and it doesn't necessarily mean that that's wrong, but you need to actually assess where you're at as a business versus what do you want versus what you need as well. So if we think about speed versus safety in fintech, like where did Tabby have to slow down deliberately, and was it worth it?
As I said, the market changed with more regulations coming. We had to adjust. Of course, it made sense. There was no other way around. And of course, we all the time on the other side, the second thing that is necessary to keep in mind in fintech, that you do not want to grow stupidly. You all the time have to think about default rates, about LTV, about actually bringing good customers on board rather than being able to deliver this product to everyone. So we stopped ourselves all the time by choosing the good portfolio.
And if we think about GenAI,
Okay.
where do you feel that it already sort of boosts team velocity, and like what guardrails did you have to put around it as well?
There couldn't be a podcast interview without a question about GenAI, of course. So my answer would be, it boosts velocity at the moment, at all the operational things, like writing the documentation, QA, other things that can be easily automated. What is left at the moment with the product teams is decision making. And I have been talking to the companies, and I see that AI has improved the speed by, 30%, maybe in a good scenario. But I definitely see the potential here for 3x, 10x boost that will come forward. And that's cool. That's exciting, but still a bit of future.
Yeah. And obviously remote first at unicorn speed. What's important?
Yeah. So I insist that remote is an answer, because you get access to talent across the globe, and that's cool. But of course, you need to figure out how you deal with the challenges, how to make these people sitting everywhere around the globe feel that they belong to this organization, that they not just outsource workers, but that they are part of the team and they make the decisions and they are responsible for them. And this is important to build this culture of that everyone is part of the same team. And it can't be the situation when you have an office here and all the decisions are made in office, because in person it is much easier to talk. Or sometimes there were situations like we have a call and there are 10 people in the room and one person online, and for this one person it's that hard to say something, to interrupt these people in the room. And then they talk, they come to some conclusions, and then these 10 people go for lunch and they decide something else. And then it's good that if they decide to loop in this one person outside, but sometimes even this doesn't happen. But he has no ability to say something, to add something, and then they have to renegotiate and talk every time. So I guess what is important for remote is really believing in that and not building that you have the decision-making center in the head office and outsource factory for delivery somewhere else, that you need to be remote even here to mix their decision making so that it doesn't happen in one room.
Yeah, I can completely resonate because we had our team in London. I relocated to the Middle East. We were doing our quarterly kickoff. Sometimes I was going back, sometimes I wasn't. And yeah, being present in that room, it makes it really hard to kind of influence and especially what you spoke about afterwards as well, the decision making. In 2025, is it faster, would you say, to upskill trusted engineers in LLM tooling or to hire prompt ops specialists?
I think there is no market for the prompt ops specialists. So everyone is learning at the same time. And I expect more AI-driven companies to appear that will provide training, that will provide upskilling for their companies. But for now, I would say that you need to find enthusiasts within the team to give them this responsibility, to give them options to explore, time to explore as well, and opportunities to build something and to try different things internally and use them then as ambassadors in the team. But of course, if there are more people at the market being able to distribute this knowledge, I would also prefer to hire externally, to disrupt a bit internally, to learn how from the best and then take on our own.
How did you work with the CEO and the board then during like Tabby's major product milestones, and like what role did maybe the investors play in shaping versus challenging product roadmaps as well?
So we had two co-founders and they were very deeply involved in the product and tech in the beginning. And I remember the sessions, when we just drafted on the board how the refunds will work, like if a person is overdue, is not overdue, and this was happening with the CEO on, of course, the first early stages. Everyone in the team knew the smallest details of everything, and I guess for the startups, like first 2 years of existence, that's how it should be. And talking about investors, the general rule that I believe in is that if you have a plan and if you commit to a plan, you deliver the plan, then there are no questions by the investors. They trust you, they believe in you, and they tell you, good luck, keep the things that you've been doing. If you can't deliver to the plan, then there are more questions asked, of course. And I think it's a general rule, just we need to understand that's how it works.
And I just want to sort of index back into the OKR piece, because I think that's really important for organizations to get right, to implement and understand a bit more around the different challenges, because as it become more important to align all the teams shifting into like different directions. So yeah, if you could talk to me a little bit more around that, like piloting in product and dev, the dilemma around that, the rollout across a whole organization as well, not just obviously like the product and engineering teams.
Yes, so the biggest dilemma here is that, so what is known? OKRs are important because you need to bring all the people on the same page. And when it is more than 60 people, then you need something to have the same information flowing, because you can't bring them in one room. It's hard to communicate. You need some instruments, and OKRs are a great tool. But then the biggest dilemma and the question is how to use that. And if you open the best books on the OKRs implementation, the first thing will be told is that OKRs is for ambitious goals. So they help you drive forward. You need to dream. You need to set very ambitious goals. And then you do not have to punish people for not delivering them. So it's more about alignment rather than for control. And the challenge that you have with that is that no one is taking this very seriously. Like, it's cool, it's ambitious, but here's what we can do. And no one feels that level of accountability with that, because it doesn't impact you directly. And the second option that you have, and we had so many arguments about that, is that OKRs can be closer to KPIs when this every objective and key results basically affects, at least partially, the performance review of every person. And then the side result that you will have is that the whole system brings you to more comfortable goals, because every person coming up with their own key results, they try to plan safely because they know that their future depends on this. And then you need to make sure that your product leaders, that your managers are able to challenge that, to bring it to the next level, to make it more ambitious. And sometimes me, even as a product leader, despite I had a very ambitious team, but I felt that I'm all the time disturbing them. I'm trying to bring them to the next level. But you need to have these controls. But on their other side, you definitely see the motivation going up from every person. Now the engineers start asking the questions like, okay, dear PM, you think that this is a good idea, but I'm not sure, let's talk more. And then you get more challenge from every person on the board because they are like personally involved in the success. And they try to find like, okay, this is a good solution that we'll program for 3 weeks, but maybe we can try out a hack that we can deploy in 3 days and see. And this brings you more experimentation because it affects them. And we first started with approach number 1 within product and tech organization. We were the pioneers, and we started as soon as we had maybe 2 teams, like 20 people. It was just used for synchronization purposes so that everyone knew what we were doing, what we were working on. And yes, I have seen that people kind of know, but they do not challenge and there is no drive. And then we implemented across the organization. There were multiple other challenges that I can summarize and that I see often other companies face them too. Sometimes lack of trainings among the managers and individual contributors. All the people understand OKRs and the way how to formulate them in a different way. And you can often see
HR team as a blocker sometimes.
HR as well, because we have HR team who is able to support what is going on at the moment. But this thing is a big new project and they need to be able to support this big project. Sometimes external help is required here as well.
And then you've got I think you touched on a bit of it, some of the challenges around OKR fatigue, cross-stream dependencies, anxiety, hard to formulate for DevOps and support teams, and metrics overload.
Yeah, that's also true, everything of that. So it's not just silver bullet, you need to, I all the time approach all HR related stuff and org structure and OKRs and everything else as a product. You can't build once and forever. You have to iterate and approach it with a constant improvement approach.
And do you think they should actually impact performance reviews? Because you touched on it earlier around KPIs versus OKRs as well, right?
So this is a very hot topic. My opinion in the end that you have to have flexibility.
Yeah.
KPIs is for corporation. They bring a lot of safety, comfort, planning abilities, but they take away all this being ambitious stuff. So I would stick to OKRs being very ambitious and try to use them as a proxy for performance review, but not like one-to-one relationship.
Yeah. So if we just move over now to some industry trends to get your perspective for like a people and an organization lens. So if we think about distributed teams, sales to product teams on premises, hubs in Egypt, Armenia, Georgia, Spain, Vietnam, remote contractors, and all the different time zone design that's replacing that office design as well. What's your take?
My take that this is the future, because especially in the MENA market, there is such a paradox in the market. There are a lot of candidates, and the candidates are actually have to train themselves to go through interviews, and then they master the skill, and then it's hard for the employers to choose the best candidates, and then you choose from the network, and you choose from the people who have the personal brand, and then they cost insanely. So you have to go for remote if you're based in Egypt, if you're based in UAE, or if you're based in Saudi, and try to look to those countries that you just mentioned, such as Egypt, Armenia, Georgia, Serbia, which I believe is very underestimated as the market. But yes, but it's important to make these remote teams to work synchronously, and it's very important to at least make them work within the same time zone.
Yeah.
We had in Tabby the thing which was called like presence hours, as far as I remember. It's like from 12 to 6 p.m. Dubai time, when everyone has to be online and available. And for people, for example, in Lisbon, that starts at 8 in the morning. And for people on Bali, it ends at 10 in the evening. But that's how it works. And in this way, you can guarantee that people have some time to communicate.
Yeah. How about raising the bar then for human creativity?
But that's cool, because we have this opportunity to delegate all the boring stuff to AI. And I really hope that this will make the product managers think much more creative than they used to think about. We can automate everything that can be automated. That's a dream.
Yeah. And what about alignment automation then? Actually more time for real kind of deep communication and brainstorm and the right tools for that as well, which isn't complete overload.
And that's another thing. While talking about OKRs, I have said that one of the things is that people get tired of this constant steering committees, the checkbox tracking, and if this can be automated as well, if AI can take over this boring stuff, then people have more time, more energy to think about next steps, to think creatively.
Mm. And obviously, I'm going to press you on what you said earlier around like velocity of 3 to 10x. What does that actually mean for like decision making and speeding up things and autonomous micro-orgs, people? What does it really mean, do you think?
I think that the competition is not going to be more around what you can deliver. All the companies will be able to deliver the same things, and the risks that it might have is that you will build feature fabrics, like factories that produce more and more features, and that's stupid. You need it when you can deliver everything that puts more challenge on you, that puts more pressure on what exactly you have to deliver, how to build in the customer journey so that they use your product. And it really inspires me.
How do you think you got that right then in the customer obsession that people want to use your product? And you obviously touched on retention earlier in terms of not over-indexing on that, but is there a particular thing that you think you did very well?
I think the thing that Tabby predicted in the market is that it has become a part of the customer, of the very organic and natural customer journey. You know, you come to a store, you see a product that you want to buy, you see a snippet that you can split this into 4 payments, you select this on the checkout, you don't need to choose in advance, to download an app, to do something in advance. It is just built in your normal life. And I think that such invisible products, so to say, that people do not have to invest their time on getting this product, is the future. I think this is what really helped.
I mean, I remember in the early days in the UK of businesses offer the same model, but like Curry's PC World for when I wanted to get a computer, or Argos as well. It's just exact same model, but it's obviously been emphasized even further with businesses obviously like Klarna and obviously Tabby and so forth. If we start to think about expertise then, especially like around dealing with data and the uncertainty in communication, like...
I believe that expertise is overrated, especially at the moment. You know, no one knows about AI. No one knows how this will all evolve. And that's why we're all at the same stage. And then when you choose for a talent, then you should look for people who can deal with uncertainty without information, without knowledge, and who can communicate greatly. So I think this is what will happen more and more in the market.
And in your somewhat sabbatical moment,
Okay.
a big thing that was on the rise was around AI agents. So I wondered how much you sort of looked in it and what your take around sort of the micro objectives there and autonomous pods and pricing models, how they own OKRs, forcing humans to think a bit more portfolio.
Honestly, I haven't seen the AI agent working at the moment, working productively at anything else except for customer support. I think that for customer support, this has become the market standard, and this is here, and this is the reality. For more complex work, for product and tech, I think this what will come. And I think that maybe even faster than we think. Like there are some stuff that can be taken from human to their AI agents, like pricing models. This is a thing that you can delegate completely, and AI can experiment, learn, adjust, and actually own this micro organization, while human can think more portfolio-wide, can take what you've got from AI together with some other things, aggregate, and think strategically.
Yeah. And if we just look at some key challenges then on sort of building and scaling companies and teams, and obviously we've touched on some areas already, but like what about the sort of the paradox around so many candidates, huge competition, mastering the skills, obviously passing through interviews, like how do you balance that? How do you get that right? And even in particular in the Middle East, I think it's even more of a challenge.
Yeah, I think our answer was remote.
Yeah.
Going totally remote, being able to source best from different markets. This would be my answer.
And obviously with AI as well, it's an enabler, but at the same time a disruptor, right? In some cases, and resistance and skills gap.
Yeah, that's right. And maybe coming back to the previous topic, I just wanted to say that I have thought about using AI for recruitment, and I know that it has become more and more popular as well. And I just thought about one anecdote knowledge from Google that I read somewhere, is that they try to automate recruitment to add machine learning there so that they can source through their CVs much more efficiently. And the only thing that the machine learning proved that there is a correlation is that the more education certificates a candidate has, an engineer that was done for engineering teams, the less is the chance that they will hire them. So, and this is a paradox as well. And this basically proves that, AI recruiters are limited as well at the moment. But I definitely think that this is going to change. And coming back to your next question is, yes, AI is enabled, and it is a disruptor at the moment, and you need to find people who are able to live with that unpredictability, who are able to deal with that ability, who are open to new technologies, who would like to experiment.
Yeah, I think, more ability to deliver things, complexity around communications there. And yeah, you touched on obviously AI for recruitment, a big thing that obviously we've been looking into for some time. Automating parts of the process has always been there. There's been businesses for 5+ years, longer now, that have been trying to sort of have some form of talent solution, and I think it's good and it can speed things up. But there's always going to be that human oversight, that human element from my perspective, because otherwise it's only going to be looking at buzzwords on profiles and CVs anyway. And you have to have, that's the difference between a good and great recruiter anyway. It's really hard to say, but do you actually know what good looks like, and the right companies and timing and all that kind of stuff? So
totally agree.
It'll be interesting to see. When it comes to sort of the executive insights in particular for chief product officers, like how does the mindset of a CPO evolve from zero to unicorn, and thinking about also like what's next?
First, you need to be a dreamer. Then you need to be able to execute. and then you need to be able to dream again. And this is a cycle that I think is characteristics of a great CPO, that you all the time have to be in this loop from dreaming wildly and then being able to deliver that.
And what advice would you have then for your advising startups now? The big question is always of org structure, when to bring in a CPO. I don't know if it's actually stage relevancy. I mean, typically I always say sort of at least Series A and beyond, but typically Series B, and you need obviously different CPOs at different stages. But what is your advice for founders? How do you break that down to them of who to hire, when to hire?
I think this depends a lot on the founder's background, their own. If they're building a digital product, do they own have this expertise? If no, that better to go early with CPO. And then, yeah, I think that I've been Tabby from the day one. We actually, the very first office that we rented for product and tech team was under my name, and it was a very weird red door with just my name on it.
That to scare people to come in from the interview.
yeah. that was scary, but that was cool. It was a cool stage. But I think sometimes when the founders are able to deliver on their own, they should continue doing this for as long as they can.
Mm-hmm. And what other insight would you have for a CPO then, sort of first day on the job? What they're like, you were joining a new company, starting to think about, onboarding all of these things and getting things right. And I'm assuming definitely OKRs for you plays a big factor of setting those foundations early. But what advice would you have for other CPOs first day on the job?
Strategy. Like the first thing, I think that today I have spoken a lot on the ability to scale and about people and about tools more. But the first thing is strategy, is what you do, like the content itself, the meat, so to say. And I guess that if you don't have this, all the tools won't help you at all. And if you have the greatest people on board, and if they do not know what they do, it won't work.
Yeah.
So day one, think about what you do.
I think you see org structure as a product, right? It's about iterating it, same hypothesis, test it, and the learn loop as your app. So.
Yeah, all the time. Org structure instruments that you use, you need to adjust and iterate.
Yeah. And when you think about going into businesses, advising them, you're working with founders, what are common mistakes that you're seeing? Like, what are the things that you've already learned from at Tabby? So you're now seeing that, you're identifying that early on, I'm assuming, and you're now advising them to make sure they don't get that wrong.
I often see that startups try too many different things and they distribute their resources like crazy, and then they do not do anything properly. That's the biggest and the most often mistake that I see. Another one is I often see that people try thinking about selling startup even before starting the work on it, and with this thing in mind, you won't get long. So you can't build the best product. It's the only thing that you want is to sell the startup. So my recommendation would be get obsessed with the customer, get obsessed with the problem, and be able to amazingly well solve at least one problem of the customer. Then you're already good.
And is there any other sort of maybe free tools or processes that you would put in place or advise those founders to set them up for future success and growth that maybe they forget about in terms of like the foundations?
Maybe as well their responsibility structure. I'm not a fan, of like Resi metrics and all that stuff. I think that when Resi metrics comes on board, then it means that there is a conflict already. But being able to definitely set up the areas of responsibilities and to have great people focusing on the very important stuff is a must from the very beginning.
I wonder if it's come back to you now that the conversation's been flowing. If you were to start again tomorrow, what would be the one sort of people-related mistake you would avoid at all costs?
Okay, I have the answer, and it's
Perfect.
a topic for a separate podcast. We have tried 4 days a week, and the answer would be is that this is the biggest mistake, not because 4 days a week doesn't work at all, but because you never can take this back. If people try this, they would have to have 4 days a week forever. And you need to be very careful with such experiments because it's just one-way thing.
Yep, love that. Right, I've got some quick fire questions. So it's
Okay.
like basically the first thing that comes to mind. One book every product leader must read.
I love Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. I think it's very important to know what you're building
Favorite AI tool you use weekly right now?
weekly. I use ChatGPT every 20 minutes at least. So I would go with this answer.
Biggest myth about building product teams?
That it's easy. It is not. It's too many things that you need to think about.
One hire you made that changed everything?
I do not have the answer to this question, but I can tell that I'm very proud of the product leaders team at Tabby at the moment. All of them. It's about 6 people, I think. I left a year ago, and all of them with the new CPO with I think double digits in terms of their volumes, maybe more than doubled. And they all are there and they are capable to take over this new responsibility, this new scale, this new business. And I think I did a great job.
Awesome. I mean, for us, we're a sales company and we hired an ops person and the boat just started moving a lot faster for us. Most underrated country for tech talent right now, from your perspective?
My answer would be Serbia. Have you heard about Serbia?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there were always a place before Brexit in the UK that we used to headhunt from to bring people over, talent over to the UK. So.
I think that here on the market, no one knows even where the Serbia is, and it's a great place. We had a hub there.
Yeah. We hired some great software engineers. Finish this sentence. The next CPO of a unicorn needs to
stop thinking about becoming a unicorn. Thinking about building a great product.
Well, Katya, thank you for joining Breaking Down Barriers. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Ricky, for having me.
And I've got one more thing to add for our audience. So I've got something interesting for you and a quick ask right now. 72% of the people who listen to this podcast every week are not subscribed. That's totally cool, but here's the thing. Subscribing helps unlock bigger guests, deeper insights, and the kind of episodes that genuinely make a difference to the ecosystem. So if you're taking value from the show right now, even once, could you hit that button? It's free, it takes 1 second, and it generally helps shape the future of this podcast. And who knows, you might tap into the reason why we get the CTO of Amazon next month. Thank you for our sponsors, AWS Startup and investment partner Sharuk.
Thank you.